And for more, let's go to Istanbul. Dawud Ansari is a geopolitics and energy analyst. Thanks for being with us here on France 24.
Thanks for having me.
First off, the optics of that first ever official visit. Why is it only the first of a Sultan of Oman to Paris?
Well, I wouldn't read anything into that. Sultan Haitham, since he ascended to power, had quite a bit of schedule, obviously, and there have been very successful visits to other European countries. And well, this one to France has been long overdue. It probably would have been nicer to have a different background than the very complex current situation. But well, if that gave the positive visit, then all the better.
Yeah, Oman very much in demand. I want to get back to what Emmanuel Macron tweeted out a little while ago. But first, how do things seem these days? We had this weekend spike in tensions with shooting across the Gulf, the Iranians and the Americans disagreeing over whether or not there is free passage, it seems.
Well, things are still very uncertain. I mean, we were all able eventually to tone things down and to take some breath when the MOU came down. But then obviously the MOU is just very much that. It is a memorandum of understanding, and it shows their intent to do something. What is eventually happening, that is still very open. So we're all very disheartened to hear the news about the new attacks that followed this weekend. Eventually, there are some actors in the region, including Oman, who are very, and France, who are very committed to bringing peace. However, what exactly is going to happen? The war hasn't ended yet in terms of ended, and things are still very open.
There's kind of a precedent that's been set here with what's happened since February the 28th. Is this the new normal, Dawud Ansari, where even if a deal is signed, we'll always have tension now around the Strait of Hormuz?
I mean, obviously, I don't hope this is the new normal, but however, we need to get ready for that. Part of this may be the new normal. Eventually, this has been the very reason why no US president previously attacked Iran, because it was always an idea that the Iranians could apply pressure using the Strait of Hormuz. And now they have very much seen that this is a card they can play. And so they will obviously at least have this card in their hands all the time. Nonetheless, eventually, this is a card that loses power over time. Take, for instance, the UAE, that has prominently decided to shift as much as they can over the coming years in terms of trade over the eastern shore, so to expand the port of Fujairah and Horfagan, and so to surpass Hormuz essentially. So even from an Iranian side, this is a power play that is gradually losing power over time. So yes, we will probably see this still being used for some time as a power currency. However, this is not going to be something they can use forever.
A few weeks back, Dawood, there was a kind of a misunderstanding between the United States and Oman in terms of what is Oman, how does Oman see the managing of the Strait of Hormuz going forward?
From an Omani position, Oman has been and will be committed to de-escalation and to providing peace in the region at any cost. That is in Oman's very simple self-interest. Oman, as a rather small nation in that very region, is making itself priceless by the ability in order to facilitate and to broker peace. On top of that, Oman simply, just as other GCC countries, is in need of a peaceful, of a stable environment, and so that is the very, very first.
And just to be very clear on that, Dawoud, that means no tolls from an Omani perspective.
Let me put it like this: Oman has been very clear about the fact that Oman is committed to a free passage. What we currently read in the MOU, so Oman and Iran together providing some kind of an administrative scheme with potential fees. What exactly that means is very open. In the end, what matters to Oman is that there is a stable arrangement. If that stable arrangement was at any point of time, including some kind of an administrative setup with Iran, well, it's open. But from Oman's perspective, the prioritized solution is a solution that contains free passage.
Now, we saw the images, some 10 days ago, the president of France next to the president of the United States, when Emmanuel Macron talks about coming to help for demining. Donald Trump seemed to make a frowny face. So when he announced it again over Twitter after his discussions with the Sultan of Oman, do you see that happening?
Do we see if France happening with demining? Yes, definitely. I mean, France has definitely had its historical share and also bringing turmoil to the region. But over the past years, we've seen that France has been an actor that is obviously also self-interested, very much interested in de-escalating these conflicts, which have had a tremendous cost on the global economy and by extension also the French economy. And so France being committed to but this is, I would consider this part of de-escalating the conflict. Yes, that's very likely.
And the other deals that are being signed, is that just the normal trade stuff that you see?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, consider this. I would consider this visit to have a back end and a front end, so to say. And the back end is definitely other dealings in terms of de-escalation and collaboration, the regional situation that we've seen. On the other hand, obviously, this deal also doesn't happen in a vacuum. Oman has the intention and the imperative to broaden its economic base. So Oman, more than 50% of the population is considered very young, under 30. There is a need to expand the economic base in order to have a flourishing economy that also provides jobs for its citizens. And Oman is wealthy, nonetheless not as wealthy as its neighbors. So being able to attract foreign direct investment, particularly also through, for instance, through France, it's just as imperative for Oman as it is to cool down the situation. For France, on the other hand, obviously these are very prominent economic deals, and they come essentially in both. On the one hand, there has been this long-term vision to generate FDIs and to further expand the Omani economy. On the other hand, obviously, yes, these economic agreements are also a testament to cooperation, not only in the economy but also elsewhere.
Yeah, the Dawud Ansari, Oman, part of the Gulf Cooperation Council, but as you were kind of alluding to in your last answer there, different from the rest of the GCC in a lot of ways. I suspect you must spend a lot of your time explaining Oman to people.
Definitely, and it is both interesting and also very, very cumbersome to make that. So essentially, all these economies are sufficiently similar. There is a large degree of homogeneity, but then also there are differences. So Oman, for instance, it is more complicated to drill for oil and gas, making the exploration more expensive. At the same time, Oman is the GCC country with the largest share of nationals. So other countries have a ratio of, say, 95% of foreigners in the country and only 5% are locals. For Oman, this picture is very much inverted. So it is a GCC country, unlike the others, but then also with a couple of differences. And one of them is obviously what also brings us into that Oman's role in foreign policy, which has the simple focus of maintaining good relations and maintaining some even monopoly on certain relations, including the Houthis and the Iranians, in order to use them for mediation in these times.
Yeah, so remember that when February the 28th happened, Oman was in the midst of brokering negotiations between the United States and Iran. What will be its role going forward in that respect, now that we have the Pakistanis, that we have meetings taking place this week in Qatar, it seems?
I mean, what exactly will happen? That is very open, and Oman has also somehow been, blindsided by the developments. Part of that is simply that the U.S. is currently endowed with an administration that is not necessarily valuing proactive diplomacy in the way that previous administrations might have, which is also, well, you earlier referenced the quite weird showdown between the U.S. and Oman, where that even escalated to the U.S. threatening Oman to bomb it. So this very much shows that unfortunately some actors don't really value that position. And I completely agree with you. Oman's role in this has been somewhat softened through the fact that also others prior to Pakistan, Qatar eventually took over some of that role. But Oman does still have a couple of relations, and again, among them are certain channels within Iran and certain channels into Yemen that even Pakistan doesn't necessarily have. So even though other actors may be at the table at the moment, Oman's role is still indispensable.
Dawud Ansari, so many thanks for speaking with us here on France 24. Stay with us. There's more to come, more news, plus the day's business. And in sports, we'll go to the United States. The World Cup knockout phase is in full swing now, what with a Brazil versus Japan coming up. You're watching France 24.